Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Broken by Concept, episode 214. Now today I want to start with an anecdote. This story that I'm about to share with you is someone from my life. I'm not going to name names, but this story absolutely blew me away in terms of its relevance to the process and the mindset that we talk about in real life.
Love process.
We've had many emails, many people inside of our communities tell us or kind of share with us their stories about how they've used the mindset they've, I guess, adopted through our time in the programs to, I guess, better their life. And whether it be, scenarios with their relationships. In this case, it's relating to career. Now, the person that I'm talking about works in the financial industry. And essentially, there was a scenario whereby their superior, their boss, left the company, and they had an opportunity to essentially contest for this position. So there was a few other people trying to contest for this position, and this person wanted to try and they basically said, okay, and they actually, the company said to this person, let's just call them Amy. They said, okay, you can actually apply for this role, and we're actually going to give you all the tasks that this person had, so you can show us that you're capable of doing this role, to Amy.
Makes
so
sense.
Amy was like, okay, great. This is my opportunity. I can execute everything that I've learned. I can step up, and I can see if I can fill this role. So this process goes on for whether it's like a month and a half or 2 months, and Amy's working really hard trying to develop a skill set, fill the shoes of this position. And so the time comes where the company had to make a decision about what they want to do with this role. Now, during this time, Amy has gone above and beyond, right? Worked overtime, done everything to upskill, done every single thing in their power to actually try and min-max the possibility of getting this role. The time comes around where Amy gets pulled aside from the superiors to I guess
It's time.
it's time to know if whether or not Amy got the role or not. And they said to Amy, yeah, you just don't have enough experience. And so Amy inevitably didn't get the role, and they hired someone else. And so talking to Amy about this situation, this was a very painful experience for her, in the sense that she had given her absolute best, right? This is the equivalent of a grueling slugfest of a 45-minute, 50-minute game.
I wouldn't even say that. I would say
Even a
a
split.
month to, split, couple of months of like really trying to climb in and ranked improve, put it the most effort you've put into league and maybe
Failing.
getting nowhere or going downwards.
Yep. And not getting, or maybe staying at the same rank,
Yeah.
right? Like you've been trying to push from Emerald, and you've done everything you possibly can to get to Diamond, because
Maybe they did get to diamond, but they went back to there when they had like a little peak.
Or maybe another way you could tie this back to a League of Legends scenario is like maybe you were applying for a team, and the team said, you got to reach this rank, and you get to the rank, but then the team turn around at the end and say, you're just not,
that's a good one
just
as well.
maybe not good enough.
Yeah.
And so you're left now in this situation where you've given your all, you've put absolutely everything into the scenario, and you didn't get the result you were looking for. And inevitably, we hear this all the time. I'm sure we've all been in scenarios. You've done everything you can in a game. You've tried to communicate and ping and shot call and execute the fights well and doing everything. And something out of your control, something that was completely out of your control, occurs to the point where you just don't win. You lose that game. And, Amy, so I had a chat with Amy, and Amy said, I'm pissed off, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm so mentally drained.
A completely normal reaction, I would say.
And this is where, I didn't know what advice to give, because I haven't been in I haven't been in the whole finance industry or anything like that. I've never been in that scenario. But then
You've played a lot of League of
I played
Legends.
a lot of League of Legends. So I put on my League of Legends coach cap, and I said, okay, Amy, at the end of the day, you should be proud of yourself because you expressed your best self. You did absolutely everything in your power. You've done everything that you possibly could. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? You can walk away from this experience having learnt a shit ton. And I asked her, did you learn a lot during this 2-month period? She said, yeah, I did. I was able to talk to clients that I wouldn't have spoken about before. I worked on things that I wouldn't have done before. I got put in this pressure position. I proved to myself that I'm capable of doing these tasks that I never thought I was able to do. And I reframed the conversation about, what did you take away from this experience? What learnings could you have taken away from the experience that we can apply now to future endeavors? This is not the only position that's going to be available to you. There's going to be other jobs, there's other companies, there's other whatever. It's not like you're stuck here forever. Let's take this learning. Let's reflect on this experience. Take the learning, and we can apply this moving forward to something else. And so I remember walking away from this conversation. They were feeling obviously a lot better about themselves. You know, they were really in the dumps. And after this conversation, felt a lot more positive about the experience. But I walked away from this thinking, this is exactly like a coaching session that I do in League of Legends. This is no different to what I would say to someone else who's just lost a 45-minute game and they're complaining about the LP and complaining about variables that are outside of their control. And this is where the mindset is really powerful of, folks, you need to, and this is really, whether you're min-maxing your performance in the Rift or whether you're min-maxing your performance in your career, in your job, or in your workplace, we can only do what we are currently capable of doing. That is the only thing that's it. We can only do what we're capable of doing. Now that inevitably, if you fail while trying your best, it sucks. It can feel shit, but only if you view it through the negative lens of, oh, I failed and that's it.
Well, if I think about it in terms of a coaching session that I've done, I'm assuming this is sort of like a VOD. This is what I'm visualizing. Yep. It's a VOD where beautiful early game. I'm going to use the jungle perspective. We got to our camps on spawn. We said no to 1 or 2 ganks. We traded an objective here. We got to our item spikes. We had beautiful resets. We played beautifully to our champion identity. We played around our ult cooldown. And you know, let's say we're 80, 90% kill participation at the Baron, 0 deaths even, and we even set it up quite well. Let's say my 80 carry goes onto the mid wave and just gets like picked or caught. Maybe it was actually the enemy team playing really well, by the way. I'm not even going to say like my teammate playing poorly. Like there was an Eve or some assassin just beautiful, just instantly on the wave, right? Pick into team compensate now, bam, dead, Baron, and they just happen to end the game off Baron, right? And it's like, great, you ticked all the boxes. And I know as well that client as well is not doing those things every single game. This is actually, because sometimes people are very good at picking this game because they want to bring it, because someone will sit there frustrated like, okay, you know, Nathan, you're so smart. You tell me how I should have won this game. And I can't, you know, I say, you did great learnings from this one here. Awesome. Now, if you replicate this over enough time, you're going to be a deadly player and you understand what you did well in this game and why this game felt, why you got so strong up until this point. Really, really powerful mindset.
You're absolutely spot on. I love that. And that's life. And we have to, if you can adopt this mindset to take maximum accountability, maximum responsibility, take maximum learning, don't take these losses too personally and continue to replicate that performance into the future, the world's your
time is your best friend.
Time is your best friend. And the world's your oyster.
I love time.
And even if you may not have got recognized now, you will get recognized in the future.
That's right.
And so I just wanted to start with this episode with this anecdote, because I think that some people think, well, why do I play League? What do I get from League? It's just a waste of time. League can give you a lot, but you get out what you put in. If you have a healthy relationship with the game and you take it, you play with intensity and you have a process and you're actively pushing yourself and you're testing your capabilities as an individual, you will get gems that you'll be able to take into your life, into the workforce, into your relationships, whatever the hell it might be. Even though that sounds absolutely ridiculous
for a video game.
But
really, even you can't even say that for a video game. It's quite simple. It's a skill, and League tests you emotionally, mentally. It's a brutal game. We all know that playing the rank ladder, and the fact that let's say the toxicity, people like to use that word, of the community, that shows how much people care about this game, care about winning, and how hard it is. Because if it was all sunshine and rainbows, there was no losing LP and stuff, the game would be horrible.
But also, and funnily enough, now that you mentioned the toxicity, holy moly, the stories I've heard from Amy from even just the corporate world toxicity.
Is it worse than
as in, like, you would think that it's, we kind of think that, like, the world is this utopia where, it's just all the toxicity is just on the
just
internet.
a video game.
It's just on the internet.
Yeah.
the toxicity in the real life, it's different.
Oh, it's a bit more advanced.
It's more advanced.
Yeah.
It's more high level. It's more subtle. It's more indirect.
Yeah.
There's so many from what I've heard in the corporate world and the finance world is that, you know, there is toxicity, and you just got to deal with it in a different way, and it's a lot less direct. No one's saying to your face, you know, you're an idiot or whatever the hell it is.
You should uninstall the game.
You should uninstall. You know, you should uninstall life, right? It's a lot more subtle than that. And so again, there are people that can deal with that and focus on what's in their control and play that game, or there are people that kind of crumble under the pressure and they can't deal with those externals. So again, League can really help develop that stoicism that is required even to perform in other high pressure environments, not just League. But anyway, I thought that would be an interesting place to start.
Love it.
Now, I think let's segue into an interesting little discussion about a video that I made the other day, or when last week at the time of this video comes out, the Garen and Nasus. Now, you were curious about this, Nathan.
Yeah, someone linked me the VOD of the LCK. I think I saw Chovy running around on Garen, just like obliterating him, spinning on people's heads. I'm like, what's going on? Number one, how did we get to this point? And is Garen just the best champ in the game? Because we've seen this whole Garen thing before. Remember Garen Yumi and stuff with bot. So yeah, you talk about. I actually have some thoughts and questions around this. We'll
start actually detail oriented and let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah. So I want to shout out to AJ. AJ was the one that basically drew the timeline out and like pieced it all together. So AJ's got a beautiful mind for this stuff because he follows competitive pretty religiously.
He watches a lot of.
And he's like
regions.
Chovy's disciple. Like he watches Chovy solo queue, competitive games, everything. Yeah. He's obsessed with Chovy, right? Yeah. So so basically, in a long-winded way, you know, there was a series of events that happened whereby, you know, 80 carry mids came, you know, quite strong. Now, just to TLDR the video that I made, Precision Tree became quite strong. Fleet in combination with Absorb Life and Cut Down became very, very sexy to go down. I mean, Absorb Life gave a ridiculous amount of sustain. You pair that up with Fleet and then a D-Blade and then a Cull. I mean, you just become very hard to push out a lane. And so people realize that, okay, wow, if we can play 80 carry mids, get prior into basically everything, we can out-sustain most poke, and then you have the ability to side lane in the mid game, and you scale. It's like a win-win-win scenario, and this beautifully coincided with the AP jungle meta because the Faded Ashes was a very strong item. So it was the perfect storm of, wow, it's very good to play AP junglers, but 80 carry mids also really strong. So it's like this perfect combination of, well, let's just double down on that, right? And this also coincided with the Corki getting a rework, and Corki was actually strong upon rework. So there was this perfect storm of 80 carry mids with AP junglers. So as that propagates out, and there was, you know, niche counter picks here and there, in a long-winded way, Nasus became a really interesting counter pick to a lot of, to specifically like kind of Tristana and Corki, because you slow their attack speed with the W. You can't, even if you take good trades into them, Nasus will just one-shot the way with E and reset, and you become this really annoying bruiser bruiser tank in the mid game that can shut down 80 carries between the Wither and just being a tanky member and stacking armor. So
why did he have? I mean,
Nasus. It started with Nasus.
So it started with Nasus, but how can Nasus? I'm talking about in the early stages. Doesn't he just get bullied and just pushed off?
Well, it goes as Emax. Goes 4 points E with Airy, and you just kind of one-shot the wave. And
even early, like level 4.
Yeah, because the E got buffed.
Oh, I see.
And the E's really, really strong.
And you go Doran's Ring, I assume. So you're just one-shotting.
I'm not 100% sure about the particular build path, but it's very hard to push out. Even if you do push it out of the lane, because the wave clear is so good, you just one-shot and reset.
I see. From range, and especially since the lane's shorter, you're quite safe, I guess, Nasus mid.
Exactly. And then the Wither, again, is like...
And you have no intention to kill them ever. It's purely just delay, survive.
The thing with Nasus is that E did so much damage that it kind of, coincidentally...
There actually is kill threat.
You're not killing the enemy, but you're like, using offense as defense a little bit.
Yeah, limiting their options
massively.
Because they're chunked.
So that became quite obnoxious. And so the response to Nasus mid specifically was Garen.
I see.
Because Garen, you can Q the slow.
W, yep.
And then you can, you can match the wave clear with your E. And then you don't get out sustained because you have your passive and the W, and you could use the W in reaction to the E. So you can kind of you can match the sustain, you can match the wave clear, and you can also Q the you can actually stand your ground as well. So it's like the perfect niche counter to Nasus.
So people are picking Nasus first and Garen's the counter, but Garen in isolation.
And also Nasus was also a flex pick for top because it was good into Jace.
I see.
So it was a competitive flex pick. So people got to realize that Nasus and Garen didn't come in because they were good into mages, particular mages. They came in response to the 80 carry meta. And I want to. People ask, well, why did 80 carry still? Why were they still strong despite getting all these nerfs to fleet and absorb life? Right, that's the question. Well, you got to remember. Okay, this is actually. I want to riff on this a little bit here, based off my conversation with Shock. So I asked Shock recently about his experiences. He just finished up his Korean boot camp. And unfortunately, Shock didn't get the goal that he wanted, right? He was trying to get him for Challenger. He peaked like 900. He was really close. He was really, really close. And I asked him, I said, well, what are your learnings? Like, what did you take away from this experience? And he said a few things. We said in Korea at this time, what I found was that there was it felt really bad to play champions that couldn't side lane. And so a lot of Koreans were playing flex picks mid to allow their top lane to get counterpicked because top lane was just so strong. And so what you would get in draft is like the way people were winning is that you would pick on 4-5, like a flex picks like Kennen and Rumble, these sorts of champions. So then that would give your top lane counterpick or something like that. And so he found that in a long-winded way, he was getting himself into a lot of these scenarios where he'd play Hui into Zed. And he would get a lead in lane. But then when mid-game rolled around, it'd be really difficult for him to actually snowball that lead. And in Korea specifically, because it's not really centered around objectives as much as it is in the West, his champion pool struggled with that. He didn't have many champions that could navigate the side lane. And that made it very hard for him to translate leads. So he had to play the early games flawlessly. And the games just devolved into chaos. And again, if your champ doesn't do well on the side, it can be hard to navigate the mid game.
I could just imagine a Hui just like waddling around to like a fight, like missing some skill shots, just useless.
Yeah, and so I've actually intuitively, and I was so funny he mentioned that because even in OS, I felt this at the start of the year. So I actually made a video ages ago about what makes the best solo queue champion. You remember we did a podcast episode about that?
Yeah, we did.
And one of the qualities I said,
one of
the qualities I said was its ability to side lane. I'd intuitively realized this months and months ago because in my solo queue, I was versing Rima. I remember Rima was playing Tristana and then I was playing Lux and then I would do well in lane. Even if I killed him, it doesn't even matter. I'd be farming 10 CS per minute. The mid game rolls around and I'm like, wow, what the fuck do I do now? I can't get pressure him in the side lane. We can't gank him in the side lane because he's too mobile. I'm rendered useless because the game, even if the game does play around neutrals, I can never be at the neutral objective because I'm permanently responding to waves. So the 80 carry meta, what it did is it actually basically, in my eyes, invigorated the mid lanes. It actually evolved the mid lane's perspective of the game. So I think a lot of people understood intuitively back in the day, like it feels nice to be able to side lane. But I think now it's solidified the significance of being able to side lane. Like if I play a champion that can play the side lane, you know how much confidence I feel heading into that game? I've been playing a lot of Neferi recently and I get countered by a mage. So, they try to play a mage into me or something. Or like let's say Hui or whatever. I'm like, I don't give a shit about what happens in this lane because I know as soon as mid game rolls around, my life is going to be so much easier than yours. Same thing with Echo, whatever the side lane champion is. And so, and this is very difficult to wrap your head around if you're not really competent with your mid game, and it is really uncomfortable. And it's going to be hard for me to explain this. I'm going to attempt it here, Nathan. I'm going to really break this one down. And I apologize if I'm talking too much here. There has been a long history of advice in the league community of the significance of grouping. Okay? And this is simultaneously coincided with players' inability to not be engaged upon, but also engage in bad fights. So as the player base has actually gotten better over time, the skill that people have gotten better at is knowing that, you know what? I've got this strong Fiora in the side lane. Why would we brute force this team fight? Now that thought of, I've got a split pushing Fiora. Why are we engaging on mid-wave here? Slowly, people have gotten better at that over time.
You mean people know to let Fiora play to her strengths or Tryndamere?
Yes.
Okay.
So back in the day, if we rewind, let's say even just an average solo queue game, whether it's an NA, whatever, let's take 6 years ago. Even if you were a strong split pusher, you wouldn't trust your team.
Yeah, that's the thing. The solo queue player, like let's say Fiora will be like, well, I know my team's just gonna die and get caught, so I need to just group with them. That's the psychology.
That's the psychology, and that would also be the advice that would propagate inside the coaching community a lot as well. You got a group, and so I think
was this for mid laners as well? Or are you talking about?
No, I'm just saying the game holistically, right? And so over time, every single year, the player base has got more sophisticated. They've developed slowly but surely the ability to realize, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't engage on that fight. Now it's still growing. It's still getting there. There's many people that are going to be already typing in the comments saying, no, but you should see my games. I get it. It's not perfect, but it's changed a lot. It's changed a shit ton. Where I could play a side laning champion, I don't even have to communicate, and my team will ping back. Some random person in the team will ping back, knowing that they shouldn't be fighting. That would never have happened a few years ago. The average player base has definitely improved in this regard. Now, as you fast forward, it's taking people a while to realize that, holy moly, if I play a mid lane champion or even a top laner, but let's say mid lane specifically, because it was more intuitive for top laners since they're already on an island, but for mid laners, wow, if I play a champion that gets prio into their champion in the side lane, I can control this game. I can take over the game.
That's why you say you feel confident the moment you know your champion can side lane well.
Yes, exactly right. And so what the 80 carry meta did, I think, is that it really opened people's eyes to how powerful side laning can be. Because that's what made 80 carries mid so annoying. It's a Tristana or a Corki or a Zeri or whatever. It wasn't, yes, sure, there's a lane or whatever, but it was more how annoying they were at translating leads into the mid game. You get Tristana, then would just go even. Let's say 0-0-0, even farm with a mage. 2 items, you get your Kraken Navori. And then it's like, holy shit, I can just do whatever the hell I want. I can one-shot waves in the side. I get infinite prior. I can't die to a game because
you have threat on towers.
I threat on towers. I can solo kill the person in the side. Then I can duel anyone, any mage.
And I'm safe.
And I'm safe. So that when I felt that, that's what completely shifted. One of the main things that completely shifted my perception of the mid lane role.
So people, you're saying in the past knew, obviously side laning is important to create advantages but now you're like, okay, this is actually the game.
The game. This is the game.
This is,
I think this is actually, in my opinion, it started a kind of a catalytic event where people are slowly cottoning on into, wow, this is really important. Yeah. This is a really, really, really important part of the game. And this has actually influenced my coaching forever. So I go deep on mid-game stuff. Now, so the concepts specifically that I talk about now that I used to not at all, I'll literally list them. This is the insight into things that I talk about in coaching that I never did before. How you use your empowered TP, like being really, really, really careful with your empowered TP in the mid game. Number 2, being really, really, really careful with the way you deploy on the map. If you can, versus going mid versus straight to the side.
One deploy is game changing. One bad deploy is like that end of review in my eyes.
Lane assignments, the significance of lane assignments, making sure that you're matching your counterpart if you've got the favorable side lane. You're playing Tristana, you don't want to deal with the Aurelia top, you want to deal with the mage.
It's very clear who you want to be against.
Number 4, saying no to plays. Letting your team, and I'm going to, again, credit AJ for this, letting your team die. And if you, I've got a mid-game assassin video, might have even been out at the time of this already, but I highlight key moments where I'm playing Echo in the side lane, playing assassin, Fury, Echo, whatever, and my team just die in mid. And I just keep going aside. And what happens, and this is the thing that I never understood, Nathan. If your champion can play the side lane and the person that you're versing groups and they kill your team, a lot of the time it gets absolutely out of control because of how valuable tier 2 towers are. So then what happens, you get that tier 2, they kill maybe 3 members mid. And then you rinse repeat again, you go to the other side, you get another tier 2 and they kill your team again. Sure, your team's now died 6 times, you've got 2 tier 2s. Now if your champion was picked in the right game, you can become completely unmanageable. You break the game. Your champion breaks the game at that point. You can literally 1v9. Like no one can kill you. They would have to send 3 members. And then your pressure that you exert on the side then helps your team get back into the game, but then you stabilize the game and you're an ultra fed member. You see what I mean? So you've stabilized the game and you're ultra fed.
Yeah. Because even if you end up dying, again, the enemy team can't get anything off it. You push away. You've got all the experience and gold from the wave anyway.
I've got this VOD that I go over in this game where I'm playing Echo, and this no one can match me anymore. And then I explode the game because I'm drawing so much pressure. I'm getting inhib after inhib. They literally can't deal with me. And look, obviously there is nuances, and you got to pick the right. Obviously there are games where I wouldn't do this. But as a rule of thumb, in the past, I wouldn't have been open to this idea. I'd be like, what are you doing? You got to shove and move and help your team. But this is just the switch that has been flicked in my mind. No, you don't always have to shove and move. Sometimes it is better to let your AD carry die mid, and then you just get a tier 2. And you get 3 waves. They lose 3 waves. You get a tier 2. That mid lane is now, they can't even match you anymore. And it's a long-term investment that you can reap the rewards later on. And you got to have faith in your ability to pop off in the mid game. But that is the way I feel like the game is evolving. The game is evolving through this lens of hyper efficiency, and really the skill of knowing when to split and when to group is so important. Like so important. If you're good at that skill, knowing when to be at a fight and when not to be in a fight, you're going to be so far ahead of your
peers.
Yeah, your peers.
Now that I think about it, a lot of my members in my reviews coaching, again, my focus isn't really it, but it just happens now thinking about it. It's always what I end up saying is like, anything in this mid game that's going to happen is going to be somewhat more random unless you play and create pressure through a side lane. And that's either a lot of the time, the best case scenario is it's your mid laner or top laner doing it, right? You don't want to be the jungler going there to push it. Even though some champs you have really greedy, selfish, like Shyvana's popped up. Shyvana pushes waves really quick and she was quite strong in the meta recently. And what I will say is basically the game can't progress high percentage wise until you can get pressure on the side lane, force them to react. And also your mid laner and top laner just losing experience. Go, why are they with your team? So I see the mid laners and top laners grouping, and I'm like, and what I actually have to tell, what I have to tell them is that laners, I feel like, again, like I'm talking about the reviewing like Platinum, Emerald, Diamond VODs. They know this intrinsically, that side lane is important, and they would love to get free waves and have a jungle hover them. You just need to ping it, like push them a little bit, and then everything clicks the moment that happens. That just has to happen just for you as a jungler and for them. And if you're the jungler that knows that needs to happen, you're going to be, once again, very far ahead of your peers. So what I've realized is, now that you're saying that, just the emphasis is that, you know how we used to have a saying with when your bot lane broke bot tower, and the game can't progress unless they go mid-top. It's the same for mid-game side lane. The game cannot progress unless there is pressure in a side lane.
Yeah.
And if you're the jungler, it's really hard to get to grips with the jungler because you're not really the one. Mid laner, you feel like you have way more control of it. But as a jungler, you really got to push your teammates to do that because they're going to autopilot deploy mid-outer base.
Now, I've been reflecting on why does it feel so strong now, though? Like, I feel like it hasn't always felt this strong.
Yeah, there must be some reasoning to it.
So this is my theory.
Minion waves, towers.
No. You know what it is?
Tower strength. The towers are easy or hard to get.
It's Rift. Rift is fucking useless. So the benefit that mages have, right? If you think about champions that don't side lane well, they have lane control. They usually get prio in the earlier stages of the game. They can get leads in the earlier stages of the game. So the mindset that you got to have when I'm playing, like if I'm playing a mage, I'm loading into a game, right? This is what I always say. The game purely revolves around neutral objectives. If I'm playing Hwei, if I'm playing Syndra, if I'm playing Orianna, any of these champions, Nivea, whatever.
You want a team fight.
I want, think about it. The way my team functions is what does a control mage do? I control areas. I can't run to them. They need to run to me. Yeah.
So and that objective is the best way to do that.
Objectives are magnets, right? Yeah. So what Riot at a high level need to balance is how do we make it such that you are equally incentivized to play a mage and stack neutral objectives and get the grubs, get the rifts, get the dragons versus sacking early objectives, getting into the side lane and ripping up the side lane. How do you that's this is going to sound ridiculous, but at a high level, that's what League is. League is the interplay between neutral objectives and kind of side lane.
Yeah.
That's what is at the
isn't it?
highest level.
I was just thinking, what was the objective? It was just dragons. 8 minutes. When was Herald spawned at 8 minutes, right? Everyone rotated Herald, but there was nothing topside of the map for the next 12 minutes, right? It was just Baron.
Yeah, it was Herald only.
That's crazy to think about now that
crazy
you
to
think
think
about that, right? You just had that 5-minute dragon window before the grubs and the Herald.
But I think there was a few changes though they made. I'm going to be so wrong here, but I think towers were harder to kill. So side lanes were harder to open up.
So that's what I'm saying.
So there was an interplay.
Changes,
There's a very complex interplay between tower HP
and gold on the side towers as well.
Gold on side towers.
The tier 2 side towers are insane gold.
So yeah, you've got these. Yeah, these are the lever. Let's talk about back to the lever and metaphor that we've used in previous episodes. The lever one, you've got the value of dragons. What does a dragon give you? Right? What's the net value of a dragon? Lever 2, I guess you would have grubs. Lever 3, Rift Herald. Lever 4, the durability of side lane towers. Lever 5, the gold that the side lane towers bring. And then all those levers in terms of timers and durability and this and that, gold, whatever, stats, need to all kind of coalesce in a way where they balance each other out. Where it's completely viable. Like League at its ultimate, most balanced state is where you would have equal viability on going both strategies. Now, well, that's a utopia that's never going to exist. The way the meta shapes is, the meta is the meta, right? There's always going to be a most effective tactics available, right? But when League is best, it's when you can play many different things, and we are kind of there. Now, you can play Hui, Comps, and Syndra, and you can play that. You can also play, Azir and play side lane or Akali and play side. And I think we're going back the other way. I mean, my hunch is that, Yone's making a comeback. Akali's making a comeback. Like, I think a lot of champions that are going to play the side are going to come back again. And then we're going to go that way. But I think what they need to do right now, like in terms of now, is that Rift Herald needs to be changed. Rift Herald is not valuable enough.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
the gold's nice. The gold's
it's not enough,
nice,
though.
but it's not enough.
It's not enough.
The actual charge itself is just.
I literally say so many times, Rift's up. I don't give a fuck. I'm going side.
Yeah.
I don't care. It just doesn't really matter. I need to feel more pain as an assassin giving that Rift. At the moment, there's little to no pain.
Remember I said at the start of the season, Rift Herald didn't make sense to me?
You did. You said that. You said it was
clunky.
weak. It's clunky and weak. You said it just didn't feel, what's the point?
Rift Herald last season was insane.
Even Void Grubs. Not really.
Again, it's the experience, dude. You get so much experience with Void Grubs.
Are good.
The first Void Grubs is really important as a jungler because that's actually a critical point for level 6. Because it's around that time of the game. And if you can get that, you can explode the game. You get about half a level. Because it's really awkward because...
the jungler's are level 5 on the first spawn.
Yeah,
right?
but you have no camps after that. So you do your first sequence, you get level 4. You do your second sequence, level 5. And then you have nothing to do. And if you get the grubs, that's level 6. Right, but you don't get it from the dragon. So the first grubs is a very...
Oh, that makes so much sense because I reviewed a skirmish today where the jungler got 6 off grubs.
Yeah, and the other jungle became level 5.
Level 5, and then they lost the skirmish.
Yeah. It's a very niche, specific moment in the game time. It's like a critical point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's just like reflecting on all the changes and everything. Like I like just really zooming out. That's kind of where my head's at. Is like how valuable. I think right now, like the skill to develop as a mid laner. Like if you're like an Emerald plus mid laner, like Emerald 2 plus, like I would really spend a lot of time tightening up mid game. Mid game is where
and get obsessed with side lane and
getting
TP.
obsessed with efficiency, TPs, grouping and splitting. When
Your
saying
deploys.
no,
Are you going to the right lane? Are you matching the right person?
Like that stuff matters.
God, I'd love it if my teammates did that.
That's what we're... And top laners. Same thing for top laners. You've got to be efficient with your side laning. Saying no to plays. Learning to say no.
And junglers and supports, making sure you're protecting your laners in the side lane.
Now, before... Okay, there is another topic. I want to get into this other topic quickly before we get into this. Just very, very quickly.
Yep, let's speed run it, Curtis.
Just speed run it really quickly. I feel as though... This is something that is really, I think, plainly obvious to certain people and incredibly just a revelation for others. Let's talk about the concept of saying no to a play. Okay? What is that? Right? Okay, there's a play happening on the map. You need to be able to pan your camera, understand the variables, understand the context based off the lull states in the game state, and gauge the value of going to that play versus not going to that play, right? Now there's a lot going. Like, there's a lot that goes into that.
Alts, champions, items,
game state, win cons. How much are you going to lose for going there?
I'm assessing not just the value, but like the percentage of it working,
and
right?
the missed opportunity. And what's the opportunity cost?
Yeah.
What are you going to lose for going there?
That's right.
There's a lot there, right? This is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot there.
Yeah, but when we say, I actually really struggle with this, or like, okay, I don't really like when I say it. Like, let's say I made a Shyvana guide recently, and it's like like saying no to plays. Like I emphasize how important that is, but that's so hard to teach. Like I can teach it in scenarios.
It's an infinite skill cap. It's an infinite skill cap.
But when I just blurt out that sentence, I have a feeling someone's watching that and be like, "That sounds great," but there's no practicality in that, you know. Unless you get specific. That's how I get a bit uncomfortable when I say that.
So yeah, I love that because okay, so when you say that sentence, what I love about that sentence, why we say it, you got to learn to say no, is that it will get the person hearing that sentence questioning whether or not moving to that play was good or not.
That's what we want. Yeah, we want them to be thinking about it exists that you shouldn't have gone to plays and there was probably better things to do. That
exactly
concept exists.
Now, really, if you cut all the crap, all the details, what we want you to take away from these situations is we want you to understand why, right? That's it. Why did this happen the way it did? And this goes for everything. Why did this 2v2 pan out the way it did? Why did this trade go that way? Why did we lose that dragon team fight? Why did my jungler go for that invade? Why did my bot lane get caught here? Why was the support roaming mid? The question of why is the root of developing game sense, really good quality game sense. And I've been reflecting in my coaching, and I keep finding myself saying the thing. I said, well, why did this happen? And I just go through the process. Why did this happen? Okay, this happened because boom, 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 and the game of League really is understanding the root cause of why something happened over and over and over and over again until you understand those underlying variables and you can pattern recognize what's going to happen in advance. And then that's what develops your game sense. That's what builds the foundation of the structure of your gameplay. If we go to a 2v2 and you don't know why something you don't know why you lost that 2v2, or you don't know why you lost that dragon, or you don't know why they were able to gank your whatever, then these are massive problems.
You got to figure it out.
You got to at least attempt.
You might not have the answer. We're not expecting you to be some challenger player that has understands everything, but the thought process must happen to improve.
And this is actually the reason, the cause of why certain players get stuck at a rank for so long, by the way. Like if you cut all the bullshit, the reason a player is stuck in silver for 7 seasons, or the reason a player is stuck in platinum for 5 seasons, or the reason, it all comes down because they're not asking why. They're not actually understanding why. That is it. The stage 4 issues are a blocker for preventing them from asking that question. The ego is a blocker that prevents them from getting into that question, or maybe they're autopiloting, so therefore they're not asking that question. Either way, whatever reason, it always comes back to they're not asking why and understanding why.
Absolutely agree.
That's it.
Yeah,
that is the bottom of the barrel right there.
If I just think about my own improvement journey, and if I, like you said at the beginning, it's intuitive to some people, but other people it's somewhat difficult to grasp.
Yes,
I would be nowhere. I wouldn't be able to improve or climb or problem solve.
Just to be specific, it's intuitive. It was intuitive for you to ask why. That just the question why. It's actually not intuitive for a lot of people. That's what I've realized. That's the tough conversation I have to tell people. And when I say this general statement, I hate saying it. I said, you don't really click well with League. Sometimes I say that because I'm just like, I need to just make it very clear. You've been at a rank for this amount of time. I need
That's what you mean. That's what I mean. When you say it's just not clicking, it's just like, there's just no why question, thought process, or curiosity.
Exactly,
and
right.
That's where League's just not the game for you.
This is where we need to start. We need to understand why. Like that is like what is holding them back. I just sometimes feel like, last thing here, I feel like I'm getting into a review, right? And I'm with certain people, and I'm like, okay, we look at the specifics. They're not even curious about why, though. It's just like they're just going to listen to what I say and just take it at face value, and then just move on. And there's no learning because
that situation never going to come up again.
Is never going to come up.
Yeah, you need to have the principles and understand why big picture these plays sort of happen.
I want people to say, why does this happen? Like, why?
A really good example is in a review that I did today. The classic situation, Curtis, where you've got Victor versus Silas mid. Victor, it's at level 5, or actually, sorry, it was like level 6 or 7. Victor has no ults. His wave it's the next wave coming, and it's going to be stuck outside the enemy tower. Silas has a Lich Bane. What is Silas going to do every single time? Like 90%, 95% of the time, he's going to E forward and try and kill the Victor with no ults, right? And I'm predicting this, and again, that thought the thought process of like why their Victor just died there, not even there's no curiosity there. But if you actually just ask the question, why did my Victor die? You could break it down, and then suddenly you have a principle. It's not it's never that specific situation. At level 7,
the principle,
the wave stuck outside of Victor's tower. It's like, no, I'm not teaching that because that's probably not going to happen again, or it's very rare. It's about Silas went ahead, will always E forward. Because what the client actually said to me was, I don't gank Silas because he has a dash, right?
Just not this is not accurate.
No.
It's not accurate.
No, it's not accurate.
No.
Well, you're not getting specific.
Not getting specific.
And asking the why. It's like, put yourself in the Silas shoes. Well, he has a dash, and he's going to use it to kill the Victor with no ult with the wave stuck.
And if he doesn't, specifically, why does Silas have to E forward? Well, in order for Silas to take good quality trades, he needs to get his W off. He needs to E in and get in range, right? And that's what you do with Silas. If you were to sit there and never use your E aggressively, Victor's just going to poke the Silas down to death.
Yep, and get waves
Silas
in
and
and just scale and chill. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so that, if there's one takeaway from this podcast, ask yourself, if you're really confused about why, just one play, ask yourself, why did this happen? At least attempt. Please attempt to ask that question. So we'll move on now, Nathan.
To our big announcement?
Big announcement here.
All right. So, Curtis and I, we've had our MLA Plus Soul 2 for a while. We've talked about, if you've listened to our podcast, we've started the We Will Teach You League Skool and our programs and building out the academies for our below Emerald for top lane, ADC, still TB, coming soon.
I think we need to even go further back than this, Nathan.
Okay.
All right. This is where I think we take it. If you've been in the BBC universe for a while, you would know that Nathan and I specifically started off doing high elo coaching. Specifically, our programs were initially Gold Plus, Plat Plus. I can't remember now, actually, what they were back in the day. This is before Emerald.
Gold Plus.
Emerald got introduced. And then eventually we moved it to Emerald 4 Plus, right? So that is the MLA Plus, the Soul 2 for Nathan's. And then so we split our programs into two halves. We had a lower ELO program, which was kind of level 30 to Emerald 4. And that's all the academies. And then our Soul 2 and MLA Plus, which were Emerald 4 and above all the way through. We had Master Plus clients, right? So that's the context. This is kind of the current structure that we've been working with for a while. So we've decided that there's going to be a big change. And where this actually come from... what the change is that we're merging the academies.
And it's all ranks, all champions.
It's one program now for each plat thing. There is no high elo, low elo. There is no Soul 2 and Jungle Academy. It's just Jungle Academy and just Mid Lane Academy.
We were building the below Emerald programs, and we accidentally built just a 10 times better platform with the content.
Well, I'm going to just speak what happened, right? So in the MLA Plus, which is the high elo program for me, that program primarily focused around, there was some high elo content that I would make for that program, but primarily coaching.
Review sessions. In the below program, there was coaching as well, but there was also all of these amazing resources, matchup guides, champion guides, a lot of like very champion specific things.
I commonly found myself sending content from my below Emerald program to master players and high diamond players. And so over time, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Why do I feel like I'm sending content for diamond master players from my below Emerald program? And what we realized over time is that the content that we have made in our academy programs is actually perfectly suited for people that are actually in diamond and even all the way up to master.
It's the game.
The game is the game. And I'm like, for example, I have these matchup hot seats, right? Where I go over specific matchups. The way I describe playing the matchup is not just it's for all ranks. It's exactly how I would play the matchup in Master Plus. So what we decided is that we're going to merge them together. We're going to get more coaching sessions in there, have one giant community, and merge the content, and then just simplify the whole thing.
Yep. Another question people ask, well, initially you guys said that you're doing the top support and AD carry, and because you guys aren't confident in your abilities to actually coach above Emerald. Well, again, going with the, we've got Cupcake, he's, coached plenty of players to challenge already in support role. We just realized there's a lot of people out there that really love the podcast and they actually want to get on board. These other coaches, other high elo players actually want to learn to coach as well. Well, we don't have to be the ones that really necessarily do it. Let's just get them. Let's train them up with our philosophy, and bam, we can create this beautiful ecosystem of players, all ranks, all champions improving.
Yeah, so we've already in talks with a bunch of coaches for the Top Lane Academy and AD Carry Academy specifically, pro players that we've, we're familiar with, that we feel as though we can help become amazing coaches. So we're going to have a bunch of AD Carry Challenger ex-pro player, ex and even current pro players coaching in the AD Carry Academy. Same thing for the Top Lane Academy. We've already got Chippies and Biopanther doing Top Lane Academy coaching sessions. But for AD Carry Academy, getting a bunch of pro level AD carries and they're doing stuff for us in there. And then even in jungle, you're going to get some other people helping.
We're going to be ramping that up.
Ramping that up. Same for me in the MLA. So we're basically increasing the amount of coaches in our platforms. Me and Nathan helping develop these coaches alongside of ourselves, and then just making it really simple, just one community for each of the ranks. Now, one of the main challenges, and just being really transparent and really open here, that we've always one thing that really prevented us or held us back in the past from doing this was having one giant Discord with both beginners and advanced players. Now, yes, this is going to be a challenge. I don't think this is something that is like, we're not going to sit here and pretend that's not a challenge. But based off of the communities that we have developed and the rules and kind of the structure and the BBC, our mindset and all the messaging, as well as our mentors and admins and ourselves being active in the community, we're pretty confident we'll be able to kind of make a very non-discriminative, healthy, non-elitist environment. Yeah. We don't want any elitist crap. And if someone is a high elo player that is elitist, they're just not really for this place. We're just not really catered for them. That's just the reality.
Yeah. What we've found is there's plenty of a lot of the players that we've gotten to Master Tier Plus, Challenger with AJ and Mysterious, all that sort of stuff. They love helping lower ranked players, new players in the game. And it's so important for us as well in the time we are in League of Legends, getting, new players into the game. There's a lot of champions now. It's getting a bit difficult. The barrier to entry, we need to make that as simple as possible so people can play this awesome game.
Yeah, so this change it's obviously quite big. But we feel as though it's a step in the right direction and makes more sense moving forward for us. And also the other added benefit of doing this is that at the moment, I was making content for two different platforms. But it's like there was content that I was making for the MLA Plus that I always wish that would be on the MLA. And then I was making content for the MLA that I'm like, this makes sense for the MLA Plus. So now it's this one place, new website, all structured, with the all, beautiful, all the effort we put into the new website. Also, I've been having to split my attention between two Discords. And having one Discord is just going to be way easier to manage, just one community rather than two. So there's some benefits there of merging them together. So that's the big announcement.
Yep. I'm sure lots of people will be excited about that. We did quiz our Skool community. We realized that most of our community actually happens to be Emerald players specifically. I think it was our most common people that listen to this podcast. So, and obviously we sort of completely shut them out with our academy programs for support, AD, and top lane. Also, the no wait list as well.
Yep. No more waitlist.
Join anytime, get some review sessions, get some content. You can leave, come back whenever you want. And it's obviously going to be quite sad to retire the Soul 2 Curtis. It's now the Jungle. It's now the Jungle Academy.
It was
even that logo, Curtis.
Yeah, I know. Even logo's gone. It's a good run. It was a good run, Nathan.
It was 4 years, yeah. 3 years.
Moving on to the next stage.
The next chapter.
Evolution.
So, yeah, super excited. It's going to keep evolving. We're going to keep adding that. People might be asking, does that mean 80 carries launched? Not yet. We still need to, but it's going to be quite soon. Fantastic.
Move on to Skool.
All right. Now, back to our community again. Let's go to our Skool community. We will teach you League. Link in description on our YouTube channel if you want to join that. This one here, Curtis, comes from Joey. The title of this Skool post is Long-Term Stage 4 Issues. Quick summary, Curtis. Stage 4 issues. These are things that are outside of the game. We have an episode called the BBC Pyramid. We go more in depth. These are things basically your mindset, your approach, your view of the game, narratives that you have before you even load up a League game, things that are actually holding you back. This could be as simple as, I don't have enough sleep. I'm not focused. Okay, I began taking League somewhat seriously in Season 10, 2020, and have followed Broken by Concept on and off since then. At the time, I was stuck Gold 4-0 LP with 1,300 games played in one season. These games were played out of tilt, rage, frustration, and ultimately self-hatred. That's the beautiful mix there of Stage 4 issues, Curtis. The cocktail. Yeah, that was a nasty the cocktail of a not fun journey. I believe League was a huge waste of time, yet still played out of addiction and some deep need to prove I wasn't a failure. I've never really failed at something before in life, being an overachiever at school and work, and couldn't bear not being good at something. I would play 10 plus games a day and inevitably feel horrible about myself afterwards. I resonate strongly with the mentality in this community, both towards League and life in general, and these days follow a very healthy process. Less games, 1 to 2 game blocks, mute all, review each game, etc. I know I've massively improved as a player and have come to truly love and respect the depth and complexity of the game. However, this underlying low self-esteem and fear of failure is still preventing me from consistently expressing my best self and climbing. Every time I lose a game or even die in a game, I feel a deep sense of despair. A sinking feeling in my stomach accompanied by thoughts telling me that I've failed and that all of my time and effort put into the game is for nothing. Because of this deep fear of losing, my body is incredibly tense during games and I'm desperately hoping to win, which restricts my mind from entering a flow state and accessing all my knowledge of the game. This generally creates a cycle. I go on win streaks where I'm flowing and feeling confident, but a single loss is usually enough to shatter my confidence and cause my subsequent games to be played in a state of fear rather than of curiosity and self-expression. Sounds like Joey's not asking why here, Curtis. It seems that while I fully understand the situation intellectually, my body's response have a mind of their own, overriding my logical reason and constantly pulling me back into fear. Can anyone relate?
Yeah, this one is a nasty scenario. There are many ways, many avenues I would like to go down here. I think this is an incredibly important post because there's many people watching that or listening that could probably resonate with this one.
Yeah, you understand it logically. So yeah, everything Curtis and Nathan says, but I just can't execute it. So my body has a different reaction response.
So the big thing that I take away from this, again, I have gone on this little kind of tirade before, but I think it deserves me reiterating it. There's just no love and self-respect. There's no self-love. And I say that because I've been very vocal on this podcast about that for myself. And so what he's done is that in his life, and I'm going to make some bold assumptions here, so I could be wrong. I'm just going to give you my hypothesis here, my armchair analyst.
We love armchair analyzing our listeners, our clients on this podcast.
Yeah, we love doing that. He's completely attached his self-worth to his achievements. So whether it was that great student, that great, whatever his job, being great at his job, his entire self-worth and self-love purely comes from externals and achievement. He's an achievement-based person. And so what's happened is that, you know, leagues came up in his life, and he's not getting the success that he has in other endeavors. And because he's completely attached his self-worth to his achievement, he's getting this incredibly vivid and intense response to losing. Because in his mind, if he's losing, that means he, at an identity level, is a failure. He's completely won with achievement. And so the problem with this is that it's not sustainable. It's an incredibly egotistical thing. And it doesn't always, it can go hand in hand with a fixed mindset. I think you can, though, sometimes hide a fixed mindset by just being incredibly like so focused on achieving something that you're kind of stubbornly kind of achieve things in a way, just out of just being stubborn.
And you'll just do anything
Succeed at all costs. And it's just not really. Now, sure, that can get you a lot of success in the short term.
Yeah,
but
short term, it's actually a very effective strategy. Short term,
very, very effective. And it's just not really sustainable in the long run. And it's definitely not effective when you're trying to tackle challenges that you're not experienced with before, and extremely difficult things. And he's just been fortunate enough in his life that he maybe selected a career or a job that maybe that played into his strengths as an individual. School is school, right? It's not the hardest thing in the world, and he probably got a lot of tutoring or whatever. Or maybe he just clicked with the content at school, whatever the hell it might be. I'm not saying you're not a smart person. My point is that you've just got very limited self-love and appreciation. And the thing that really struck me, and this is all from that Kenny Werner episode, I would highly recommend, what was his name? Joey? That you go back and listen to the episode we did with Kenny Werner.
What's his book?
The Effortless Mastery.
Effortless Mastery, yeah.
And the premise behind it is that you need to learn to love. You need to learn to love yourself despite what you've achieved and what you create. And so it's not about, it's like, yes, you can be proud of what you create and you can be proud of your achievements, but you're still worthy of love regardless of that, because you are a son, you are someone's friend, you are someone's partner, you are someone's colleague, you are you are on this earth. And because you are on this earth and you are a living person and you're a part of society and you're a son, you're a friend, or whatever, you are inherently worthy of love and respect, regardless of what you are and haven't achieved. And this is obviously a very different view to the whole materialistic view of life and this whole egotistical view of life. But it's a necessary one to have a full, I believe, and this is, again, I am pushing my own kind of agenda here, on my own philosophy on life on you, but because I think you need it. And because I was there, I totally get it. But I'm just here to say that it's not sustainable. And so you need to really do some deep introspection. Like, why do you feel as though you're not worthy of love and respect just because you failed at this? Why are you? And again, I guess if he were to go down that rabbit hole of asking and questioning, what it would come to is insecurity. It would come from a place of insecurity, which is exactly where it come from me. I felt I had to prove myself to others that I was this guy that could do this well, or I could do this and this and this, because I was afraid of judgment from others, and I wanted to be accepted from other people and whatever. I wasn't true to myself. And so I think that you got to really do some thorough introspection in this regard and ask yourself, why do I feel like this? Where does this actually stem from? You need to do the 5 whys. You need to go down that chain of events, and you need to ask yourself, okay, is my entire self-worth and self-love come from this idea that, my achievements in my life? Is that it? And you need to go down that rabbit hole. Because I think what he's experiencing now is kind of like the culmination of a lot of toxic narratives that he has about himself. That's what I believe. And so it's not about anything that it's not even about League. League is just the way it's manifesting. Because League is just the skill that he's failing to execute upon. Yeah. It could have been anything.
It's like shedding light on this.
You're spot on. It's shedding light on his toxic view of himself.
Yeah, I like it. I I always respond to these type of things where, you know, you use the word, what was it, achievement. It's like his play style is like an achievement play style, right? He's like the achievement guy. Yeah, you just gotta the fun thing. Like achievements are great, it's awesome, but what I found is through experience is that you've gotta love the day to day, the grind, the journey, the process. That's just way more fun to me. And when you start, it's all about externals. It can get ugly. It gets really ugly.
And I think, Nathan, you've tackled about this in a roundabout way though. Like I think your philosophy in life has always been we're just dumb monkeys.
Yeah, on some giant rock.
Yeah,
floating in space. We're not significant.
Yeah, you've always had that perspective of like we're not that important. Like
that's a tool that
stop taking yourself so seriously.
That's right. That's exactly. It's a tool that to make stop worrying and
stop worrying
we're gonna
about
die
that.
soon. You know.
What
do you call that? Is there a word for that? I don't know. That
you've just got a really good perspective. I think you've always realized that. Okay, well, whether that person over there thinks that of me or whether that's allowed you to go against the grain in your life because you don't really give a shit about what other people think of you. And that's all you've had that for such a long time because again, it's like, well, we're here. We've only got such a limited time on earth. No one really cares. And even if they did care, okay, cool.
Even about your achievements.
Your achievements. Okay, cool. Now what?
Yeah.
It's never really bothered you. And I think that you never got caught up in that like kind of egotistical rat race, if you will.
No, I've never had to go through down that whole thought process.
You've always been so confident in you.
Yeah.
You've been true to yourself. You've been absolutely true to yourself at all stages of your life since I've known you. And he's kind of jacked up. Joey's absolutely jacked up, and he hasn't been true to himself. And now he's suffering the consequences of not being true to himself. And typically, if I'm gonna extrapolate even further, this is an extremely common thing because the way this typically manifests is what you see the midlife crisis, where they usually get to they're 50 years old or something, and they've been doing everything that everyone else wanted them to do, and they realize, holy shit, what have I been doing my whole life?
I've been living for other people.
I've been doing everything for everyone else but myself. I didn't even want to do this. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I've been married to this person that I don't even like. I've had kids. I didn't want to have kids. I did this job I didn't like, and they just capitulate at 50 years old. Now you're probably fortunate enough, Joey, that you're having this realization about yourself through League. League has exposed this about yourself earlier on in your life. Now, you could completely disagree with what I've said. And look, that's okay. I don't know you very well, right? I'm only trying to extrapolate what I can from this post. But that's kind of my overwhelming feeling reading this. And again, I could be off. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert here.
You're talking from your experience.
Yeah, I'm speaking from my experience. Exactly right, man. So you take everything I've said with a grain of salt. But very practically, outside of the 5 whys, what you could also do, man, is start to put things more in perspective. Just like you think that your little bubble is all your achievements and everything is so important. And like this game and your achievements in this game right now are so important. They're not really. It's all relative. Everything is as meaningful as you want it to be. It could be the most important thing in the world to you, right? You make it whatever you want it to be. If you want League to be the most important and most significant thing in your life, it can be. Or it could be the least significant thing. But if you're not grounded, if you don't actually know what is important to you, like for me, what the most important thing is to me is my family, my relationship with my fiance, and my friends, and my health.
If you don't define it, someone else will define it for you.
I love that. I couldn't have said it any better. And I live my life in a way that I've got perspective. If someone abuses me online or I fail, and I lose a game or whatever, it's like, well, I've got my health, I've got my family, I've got my friends, and I've got my partner. At the end of the day, I know where I'm at and why I'm at, what makes me truly happy. And that is really the grounding thing that you're lacking, man. You need to get grounded somehow. What are you orienting your life around and why? And that's some powerful shit. And when I think back to myself, when I was the most mentally unstable and all this shit, it's when I didn't have that. I didn't know what was important to me and what the fuck I was doing and why I was doing what I was doing. And then you become very emotionally volatile and a lot more easy to manipulate. And yeah, like you said, you'll follow someone else's, you'll listen to someone else, their opinion of you a lot more because you're not leading your own life, So I think that's really, really important for you if you're not already doing that.
Love it. You did say, Curtis, on the Skool post here, there's a lot to unpack here. I've marked the Skool post down. We'll break it down on the next Broken by Concept episode. Here you are, Joey. All right, that's it for our Skool mailbag time. Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle, jingle, jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from Caleb. The title of this email is Should I Quit? Hey BBC Podcast. It's been a while since I emailed last. As always, I appreciate what you guys do for the community, but lately as I've been listening to the pod, I feel like I've made a self-discovery. I don't actually like the act of playing the game of League of Legends. Now that's a big blanket statement, but to preface my journey with the game started with a background in card games. I started in the end of Season 3 when a few of my bowling buddies were playing the game at a hotel we stayed at for regional my freshman year of high school. At the time, I mainly played to get good enough to play with them, which failed miserably when a bunch of them graduated a year later. And as you know, it's hard to learn everything about this game in only a year. So then I kept playing. At the time, I was hooked and loved the game design of a team-based PvP game, but over the years, I feel like I've continued to play more out of obligation and sunk cost theory. I put so much time in, why stop now? As you guys know, the game has changed so much over the years, and I was getting a very bad mental game where I had spent 10 years in the game to finally hit plat last season. Much of that had to do with me avoiding ranked the first 5 seasons I played, but it still was frustrating with loud voices in the community saying that if you can't hit X rank in 2 years, you need help or whatever. Your podcast was a breath of fresh air in this regard, but it made me start thinking very critically on what parts of the game I enjoyed and excelled at. What parts of the game put me into a flow state, and I realized the gameplay wasn't it. The big thing that initially attracted me to the game, and the big thing that I've been skipping over the past few years, is the custom item screen and the draft. You hear everyone tell you to main 1 or 2 champs, but the trading card, the TCG player side of me finds more flow state in spending 3 hours crafting the perfect theory of an item build, with side deck options, aka matchup and comp specifics. Every time I play Clash, I love being the guy that puts together a spreadsheet of everyone's best champions and building team comps around it and practicing champs to fit that comp. That has been my bliss in this game since I started. But the whole just play a few champs narrative and pick an item build and don't think about it concept has really held back my favorite part of the game. Not to mention that solo queue already limits the ability to draft and flex good comps around the opposition's comp. It's not that I hate the gameplay, but I get my excitement to play and my true enjoyment from the game in the same way TCG trading card game players get their enjoyment from executing a gameplay strategy. So the question I have for you guys is to ask if I should even be playing League. I peaked plat last season, and this season I hit plat again in the last split, but haven't played a ton since split 2. Started because my wife got laid off and haven't had time to play consistent enough to make it feel like it's worth my free time. Maybe 2 games a week since overtime is 16 hour days. Is it worth putting in effort to get little enjoyment out of how solo queue is played in the modern game, where items and team comp play a very minor role, as you guys have stated before? Thanks in advance for this email and for everything you guys do to help drown out the toxic narratives.
Before we even answer this question, I think it's important to solidify our stance on itemization. To be clear, we don't think that itemization is not important. It's just that it's a variable that doesn't need to be hyper-focused on in the earlier stages of your journey. We actually think itemization is quite important. You know, we actually encourage people to be thoughtful about their items, but we just think that people overemphasize itemization.
That's right.
Inside their League journey as a crutch for poor gameplay. So that's that. And in terms of champions and that sort of thing, we encourage champ pool cycling, just not playing a lot of them at the exact same time.
Because the execution is just, we respect it so much that you just simply cannot be thinking about playing to all these different champ reference points and mastering a champion. It just doesn't work for it if you want to improve at the game.
So why don't you start this one, Nathan? What's your intuition with this?
Very simple. It depends what you want to get out of the game. You know, the play base is getting better. you've got to respect the game is the gameplay and killing people and all that. And if you don't really enjoy that aspect, then again, it depends what you want out of the game. Don't expect to climb and improve. So you're going to need to throw that out, basically. And it sounds like you know what type of player you are. So, get into Emerald, Diamond, maintaining that, I would say it's not really on the cards option. So in terms of, quitting the mindset of improving, I think that would be wise given that. Now, there's other ways you can enjoy the game. As you said, playing Clash, doing these things. But again, even, playing Clash, don't expect to draft the ultimate team comp and just never lose, because the execution of these team comps is still extremely important, even if you have a much better team comp or whatever. You can enjoy the game through, just esports, just watching draft. There's lots of content creators out there that really focus on thinking about draft, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's a good question of like, if you're this type of player that loves the whole theory crafting and stuff, should you even be playing ranked? And I think it's fine, but just be aware that it's not improving and climb the rank ladder is going to be very difficult for you. That would be my answer. Yeah,
I'm similar. I would have a similar response. I think that, okay, look, there are players, I know of a handful. Let's take Expetu. He's the type of person that enjoys the theory crafting aspect of the game. But he's done that through the lens of one champion. So he's thought, okay, if I really want to min-max my itemization and my understanding of itemization, I would need to do that through one champion and learn everything there is about Shen itemization. That's what Expetu has done with Shen.
But Expetu has also min-max like lane phase level 2 solo kills. Like he has done lots of the execution aspect of like the Ignite Shen and stuff.
Right,
like,
but my point is that is possible, right? Yeah. Like you can still have a small champion.
That's where he's focused.
You can go deep on one thing, right? And learn everything there is to know about one champion, all the itemizations, all the different build setups, whatever. But I think you're spot on. It really comes down to, if you're trying to min-max your solo queue success, it doesn't seem like that's what you're going to want to enjoy. Like that's not the part of the game that you're going to enjoy. But I think the way I would view this whole thing is that you can still enjoy the game. It's just not going to be the most efficient way to climb, right? So let's say, for example, he loves the itemization aspect of the game. He loves a lot of champions. What you could do is you could just champ pool cycle every few weeks. You could play a champ pool of 3 champions, and then every 3 weeks you cycle maybe 1 or 2 out. You do that again and again and again. Now, yes, you're probably going to be sitting at a very similar rank for a very, very long time, but that's okay. If that's what you want, if that's what you enjoy about the game, don't feel ashamed about that. That's completely fine. There are many people that don't play the game to climb. They play the game just to play many different champions, different builds, and you don't even have to do this in ranked. You can just play normal games and flex queue with your friends and all these other game modes. You don't have to specifically play ranked. Now, if you did play ranked, do it with managed expectations, understanding that you're probably not going to progress very far. So I think this really comes down to, we don't know how much enjoyment you do or don't have playing the game. This is a very personal question. From the sounds of things, it's less of a question of should you quit. The question is, are you satisfied with being at a similar rank, and playing ranked and maybe not the most efficient way to climb? That's the question. And if the question is, or if your answer is, yeah, I actually don't mind sitting in platinum, but playing a wide variety of champions and changing my build all the time, then that's great. Great thumbs up. That's a great way to play the game for you. But if you said, you know what, I don't really find the ranked experience that enjoyable. I don't really care that much about rank, then maybe just play normal games. And if that's not satisfying, then maybe League isn't for you. Yeah. That's like what I would say. So it's all about just being honest with yourself and really just knowing what you enjoy about the game and seeing if that really feels like a wise time investment. Hopefully that gives you something to think about anyway.
All right, next question here comes from Anonymous. The title of this email is, I don't understand the no FF mentality. Hi, Nathan and Curtis. There is a subsection of the community who will swear up and down under no circumstances outside a lever that you should surrender, and I just don't get it. Why would I not want to move on from a game that, let's just say, 7 kills to 23 and down most objectives, when we can just go next and instead continue to work on early and mid game so a scoreline like that doesn't happen again? It saves time, and overall you improve at a faster pace because of the additional time for practice and review. Even in the incredibly rare times that the no FF Vote actually does lead to a win. I never feel any satisfaction from it because to me it always comes down to one lucky decision late game on a coin flip team fight. I simply see no utility in never FFing. Can you explain this concept to me and or the counter to this position?
Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is that everyone has their own take on FFing. So when you're in a game, right, you might be with 3 teammates that want to get the hell out of the game and have the same mentality of you. We want to refine our early game. I don't care about winning this game. I just want to take my learnings and move on. But then you might have 2 other people that do want to play this game. They maybe they think that they really want to win this game. Maybe they don't care about min-maxing early game learning. Or maybe they want to practice their stoicism in a game, or they want to min-max their mid to late game team fighting, or whatever the hell it might be. Or they want to practice their creativity in the mid game, or whatever. Or they just want to play to the end. That's okay. You don't even need to understand their reasoning. The point that I'm going to make here is that you don't have a control over if your team FF. You only have a partial, right? You only partially control, partially influence whether or not your team stay in the game. So the actual ultimate philosophy when it comes to FFing is this, and this is actually kind of what I do, is let's say I'm playing a game that I don't really want to play anymore for whatever reason, and I press FF at 15 minutes, and my team don't FFF. My mindset is, okay, my team want to play? Okay, cool, let's go. Let's play. If you want to play, let's play. But if they all FF'd and I wanted to also FF, I'm happy. I'll FF and I'll get out of that game, right? So my point that you got to be adaptable because it is a team game. The reality is that it's not a 1v1 oriented game. So if you there's no point even understanding, in my opinion, there's not much value going through this whole process and understanding why someone believes in something different. That's like saying, why does one person believe that we could get into the whole discussion about why does one person think that it's good to have a college education and one person thinks that college education is useless. This is their opinion, their different philosophy on life. You're going to have your opinion, your different philosophy on life. It's actually not actually that important to even have that discussion. So you need to adapt. That is the key here. And so there's that. Okay, so that's, I think, the most pragmatic way to go about it. Now, if you're really curious as to the benefits of the no FF mentality, is that the best way to think about it is that it's training a muscle. Okay, so when shit hits the fan and the game gets hard, if your constant response is game's over, not really much learning to add, move on, go next, you're actually training yourself to give up subconsciously when things don't go well. So the benefit of the no FF mentality is that no matter what happens, no matter how hard the game is, no matter how dire the situation is, you're going to be, yep, I'm staying in this game. I'm going to make them earn that win. I'm going to make them sweat for their LP. You're going to have such a healthier relationship with playing from behind. So you're going to be able to just, stay super resolute, focused, poised, no distractions, boom, and you can win games that other people wouldn't win. And then there is also another component of like, fuck them. Honestly, fuck these other guys. I don't want to let them take my LP. I'm going to make them earn this win. Like, if I want to punish them for getting sloppy, right? That's a mindset as well. It's like I've had this mindset many times. It's like, all right, I'm really far behind. You guys are probably going to win, but you know what? I'm going to keep you guys honest on the enemy team. And it can be an egotistical thing or I'm going to just bring it to them. I don't want to roll over and die this easily. There's an element of that as well. So in a long-winded way, practically, you shouldn't give a shit, but hopefully that gives you a few other perspectives though.
I guess the question would be, people will be like, wow, that sounds really great. I really want to train this no FF muscle because this sounds really logically, right? It's like, I'm just going to be a way more deadly player. The moment things start going bad, like my first thought's not going to be to give up. It's like, what's next? How can I win this game? So then what is the downsides then? What would be the negatives of someone with a no FF mentality? Wasting time?
I don't really think there is a downside, really. I mean, if you stall out a game for another 10 minutes and then you lose in 30 minutes rather than 20 minutes, I mean, yeah, objectively, I guess 10 minutes that you've wasted, but you couldn't even say it's wasted because it's not that you're getting zero value. There's always value. You always get this pattern recognition. There's maybe these creative plays that you were able to make. Team fights, ability usage. I don't know. I don't really view it. Yeah, like yes, objectively, like the learning, the end of review moments of where all the learning is. I get that.
Yeah.
But like, it's so minimal. Like, whether you have to play another game for 10 minutes, is that really going to be the difference between you finishing a 3-block or not?
Yeah.
You're probably going to do a 3-block anyway.
Again, I guess, you can think about a big picture. You're probably wasting so much other time in your day. Like, what's an extra 10 minutes of a game, right? So you could put it that way. Or maybe someone who just wants to be hyper efficient with their time and learning, then there actually is the negative with the no FF mentality. But again, the way we always try and think about, just like we review games, high percentage, low percentage, I feel like that the benefits of the no FF mentality outweigh the negatives. But I guess maybe it's sort of like, I guess...
You should have both.
Like a middle ground,
yeah,
right?
Middle ground.
I feel
we have a middle ground, both of us, right?
I'm happy to FF.
I'm happy to FF some games when I feel like there's no win con.
Yeah.
But if no one wants to FF, I'll play that game.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not going to give up at the drop of a dime, but I'm not going to be unreasonable. If I've got an AFK or someone's running it down or whatever, I'm not going to sit, So you got to find a middle ground. Just be reasonable. I feel like that's the most healthy approach. Anything in its extreme form is typically not a great idea.
That's right. That's a general principle you can follow in life.
All right. Whether you're like an insta FF voter or extreme no FF voter, typically the most effective approach is somewhere in the middle.
Where it's like the way we're explaining this because it's like American politics, right? You're on the left, you're on the right, or what do they call the middle? You're on just in the middle.
Bipartisan. I don't know. I'm not sure.
So you got to choose your FF political stance.
Where you're on the right or the left, yes or no?
Do you lean more to the left or the middle? That's what Americans like to say. All right. Next up here, we've got question here from Maliko. The title of this email is Confidence Destroyed, Realization about the Mental Stack. Hey, Nathan and Curtis. A few weeks ago, I wrote about reaching Grandmaster and playing with my idols. I wanted this next email to be celebratory to my challenger. But since then, I fell to master and I started to feel like I'm losing my skills because I couldn't adapt fast enough in my game to the situations I was making mistakes that were so obvious in the review, it was painful to watch. This started weighing on me as I felt as if I never even belonged in Grandmaster in the first place. Felt like I don't even deserve to be Master, and it destroyed my confidence, after which I, of course, started making even worse mistakes. Safe to say, I was really struggling mentally and reached the bottom of my psyche. After 2 weeks of this thought, I don't deserve to be Master anymore, so I started playing on my Smurf learning account, where my MMR is around D1 low Master. When I started playing on this account, everything suddenly felt clear again. Whole lane, mid-game, rotations, everything was so clear, and I pinged my team around to carry every game. This is when I realized that it wasn't that I was getting worse, but my opponents were getting better and completely overloading my mental stack. I could make any meaningful decision because I felt constantly under pressure. I couldn't make any meaningful decisions because I felt constantly under pressure. I know you guys talked about this concept before, but I feel this is a lesson that has to be lived to be understood. If it wasn't for you guys, I might have defaulted to the community saying this account is cursed, we'll play on a new one. So I just wanted to thank you for spreading this message.
Wow, I love that. What amazing levels of introspection. And this is the thing. There's always something that these players are doing better than you. It's just you're not aware most people just aren't aware of it, right? And challenger players are very, very good at overwhelming your mental stack. They would an immense
small things that you're not going to even see. You're not going to miss.
There's such a big difference though between being in control of a lane and being on like the responder side of the lane. Like if you're reacting to what the enemy are doing to you, it's so much harder to be proactive in your thoughts, right? Like in terms of like setting up what you're going to do next. If you're trying to avoid some abilities because some guy's getting in your face, how the hell are you going to think about your reset timers or that dragon or what your jungler is doing? You can't, because you're so jacked up with what's in your face. And this is a very normal part of the journey, because as you get higher, you get diverse players that have mechanically, their laning is next level, everything is next level, and it just takes time to adapt.
And the game pace is faster.
Yes.
That's overwhelming your mental stack. The higher
and they'll punish you harder.
Yep. One mistake, bam. It's very punishing. Respecting the mental stack aspect of League is something I really want to push in the League community. It's just so misunderstood because League looks so simple when you watch it and you can break it down. But being in that game against that challenger player, you're playing a different game. Remember, you're not even playing against the challenger mid laner, the challenger jungler, support, the pressure, right? There's so much that you have to, so much information that's happening every split second. And, you know, we were talking before about the just one bad deploy in the mid game for side lane can be game losing. Like, it's even more game losing in a challenger game. So, yeah. And, yeah, people just have this expectation that, and you remember, you're playing when GM and Challenger, you're playing in such like the best you could possibly be. You know, it's not going to be easy. And I think people just have this expectation. We're like, oh, Master tier, and then GM, and then I can never go back to Master again, right? It's just it's up.
And also meta. You know, meta matters more and more the higher you get as well. Like, just because you might have got to Grandmaster in a particular meta and the meta shifts and you didn't know how to adapt to that meta, the matchups change, the game pace changes. You're versing different styles of champions, you know, like it's very volatile in the high Elia brackets. So you got to remember that's another factor as well.
And I love what he said here, saying it really is a lesson that has to be lived to be understood. You know, we talk about it all the time, you know, the mental stack, but until you sort of feel it and see it, it's really hard for this lesson to sort of stick. So, yeah, awesome email. Thanks for writing in.
Keep chipping away, man.
Keep chipping away. And yeah, as you said, don't think about, you know, the rank and all that. Just have fun in the journey, dude, and just get those details. Get the reps in. It's not going to be easy, but it's a fun, rewarding journey if you're serious about it. All right, well, that wraps up our episode today, Curtis. Again, big announcement. Head to our website. We will teach you league for details on that. School community. Anything else, Curtis?
Get those reps in.
Get into the details. Process 3 blocks. We'll see you guys next week.